Well, howdy guys, it's Greg O'Day again with Geo Bushcraft. Go Bushcraft. So, I'm in my camper, my bug out buggy. Haven't been in here maybe a month or so. I did a little cleaning and I need to start doing some repairs and stuff to get ready for summer season. But this video is going to be about knife safety. I've been seeing a lot of new guys getting into the hobby of bushcraft and wanting to learn bushcraft, even for the little ones. So I want to kind of give you guys some tips on how to use a knife safely, and even some of the fellas that have been at it for a while might get something out of it. But let's go on out to the log. And it's a beautiful day, and let's get to it. All right, we're at the stump, and done left my piece of stick over there, but we'll get this part out of the way. Whenever you're using a knife, you want to have something that's ergonomically feels good in the hand when you control it, where you can get a good grasp on it. Putting your thumb on this side of the guard so your hand won't slip off onto the blade. Injuries we don't want out in the woods. That's why we're talking about this. But something that feels good in the hand. And then whenever you are working with wood, you want to stay, anybody that's around you, could be children, could be friends, anything like that. But anything within this area that can reach out is the no-go zone. If you're working on a piece of wood, which if you slip in it, you reach out, you could possibly cut somebody. But that's unsafe knife handling. And then the triangle of death is here in between the knees and the groin. You get a femoral artery cut, you ain't gonna be around with us much longer. Especially if you're out in the woods by yourself. You definitely don't want to work in this area. So let's move on, and I'll show you some of the safety uses and practices with a knife. What a lot of people like to do is they think a knife is just you can just plow through your material. The best thing to do is, a knife is made for slicing. To remove big chunks of material, you can plow through, but the best thing, if you have it up here, you don't have control. It's moving around way too much. Just to try to get a cut, it's hard. But I'm going to move the camera a little bit, and we'll put it on a harder surface. Best thing would be to do is holding it down onto a hard surface. I like to prop, if I possibly can, up against my arm and holding it steady. And then you do your slice cut. You can remove pretty good chunks of material this way, and if needed, you can always stand up and push down on it, which works real well. Prop against my leg and do a slice cut. Let the blade do the work. So we'll do a couple others here. We're going to do it's called a scissor cut. This is more for more precise work and more accuracy, and if you're just trying to trim stuff off. Best thing is to do is taking your blade and using your thumb, and you're rocking the material. This gives you a lot more precise trimming, plus you're pushing away from yourself. If any time you possibly can not have to pull the blade toward you, there's some instances that you may, but try to stay away from that. But you can put also down here toward the handle of the knife, and using your thumb as a lever is where you can remove material. All right. The next, I call it the chest anchor. You want to anchor your knife and tight to your body as possible and tightest to your chest as possible. Taking your material, and like I stated before, I like to have a good grasp on that. And you just pull your material through the blade. You're still running it along the blade. This removes a lot of material. And we want to stay out of the triangle of death. If you don't have nothing to rest it on, if you're trying to take some heavy material off, there's possibilities that you can slip and hurt yourself pretty bad. I've seen some videos of some folks out in the woods just for the day, or making a fire or a camp, and working on material on their leg. Don't do that, please, because if you slip, you are going to cut yourself. And if you're working real tight, you can slice right through and down through your femoral artery, and you ain't going to make it out of the woods. You'll be bled out in minutes. Even if you could get to your first aid kit to get a tourniquet on, if you're by yourself, I don't even want to think about this. But if you need to do any kind of heavy cutting, take your material and bring it off to the side of your body and pull the material through it, anchoring that knife. That knife is not moving nowhere. It's not moving forward. If I'm doing it like this, I have a chance I can cut my leg. Always. If you can pull your material through the knife, you're better off doing that. Okay, we're going to talk about different types of knives. My personal type of knife that I like to carry when I'm in the woods is a full shank. That is that the blade runs all the way through the handle. This here is my Elk Ridge. I picked it up. I have no affiliation with them. I bought this as my own, but it has a very thick shank on it, and that is good for whenever you're battening or splitting wood, which I'll show you that later on, why a thicker blade is nice for when you're splitting wood. This is not a Scandinavian grind. I am looking into those. I am thinking about going to a Mora. But this is stainless steel, and if you go with a full shank knife, always have a sheath. if you got a knife from somebody that didn't have a sheath, don't take it out in the woods with you unless you can get some way to protect that blade, and that protects you. If you have it in your backpack and you fall, that ain't good. You don't even think about carrying it in your pocket. Always have it sheathed. Whenever you ain't using it. Whenever I get done using this knife, I'm always stashing it in my sheath. Okay, my other knife, this is a full shank. This is more of a Bowie. I do carry this with me every now and then, especially whenever I am planning on building a shelter. This is a thick shank, full tang, and very thick. It does have the serrations along the back, which are like a saw, very sharp. I ain't sure where this is made. It's probably a Chinesium, but this is great for whenever you're battening bigger pieces of material. If you're battening logs or branches about that big around. It's good for like a machete if you need to clear some brush to get through. I got this at a yard sale, believe it or not, with the nylon sheath. It had a broken retention on it, so I just took a piece of paracord and I slip it through like so. Let me get a hold of it here. I slip it through the paracord. It's not cooperating. And then just pull up the slack, and that pulls the tension around the handle. It works for me, so you never know where you're going to find a decent knife for. Like I said, I got this for like $5. This knife here, it's more of a collector's item because of the pretty wood. It does have brass ends and a blade guard, so whenever you are using it, your hand does not slip off and onto the blade. Does feel real nice in the hand. It's more like a old school buck knife. I have used this for bushcrafting. It is steel. It has gained some rust. I don't know if you can see, it has a little bit of rust on this side, but it's still usable, very sharp. Came with a leather sheath where you can put it on a belt loop, or even put a lanyard and make a dongle. I am going to take another piece of paracord and put through there just so it has retention, because this is very loose. It comes off, but I don't use it that often. A lot of times I just leave it in the camper. Now let's go to folding knives. They have their place. This is my EDC. It's a very solid locking knife with the clip. Very ergonomic, and I am not positive if this is stainless, but it's like a it has almost like a coating on it, but it is very sharp, and it has stayed sharp for ever since I got this. And I picked it up for, I think it was 15 bucks. But you want to, with folding knives, you always want to make sure, because this one is very solid, there's no rocking. With the locking mechanisms, that's where you don't want to cheap out. These are mostly just used for cutting material, rope, cutting something quickly. You never are wanting to use it as trying to start something to make a hole, because if these come loose and roll back onto your hand, you're going to cut your fingers up pretty good. You're going to cut your fingers wide open, possibly to the bone. I learned that years ago when I was a kid. I got a pretty good scar across one of my fingers because of that. But for EDCs, that's find yourself a nice knife that is sturdy and not the lock. Make sure the locking mechanism is real nice. That it holds it in place. Now, old school buck knife. These are the type that you can find, you can win at the fair. You can find these at yard sales, dirt freaking cheap, probably 50 cents to $1. They have their issues. The locking mechanism, you can see on this one, sticks open. It may just be because of dirt. There, I locked it in place. The blade does not move, so it's either direction. This is stainless. Doesn't say where it's made at. It may be Chinesium or Pakistanium. But these are all good all around EDC carry knife, but they're pretty big. But the with unlocking, they have a little tab in the back. That's old school. This one here is really tight, so it's probably got some crud down in there, or just doesn't close and lock in place that well. I don't really care for folding knives. I mean, my everyday carry, this is the only one I use, and the only time I use it is to cut cordage, or if all of a sudden I need a knife for some reason. That's the only thing. I don't use it. I don't take it out with me when I'm out bushcrafting or camping. And the cheapo, this thing here, it's so dang wobbly. I mean, it's loose. Yeah, it's the same locking style where you push down on the back to unlock it. This thing here is just, but that's one reason why I don't care for folding knives, is if you're needing to do something and that unlocks and folds back into your hand, you're going to be a hurting puppy. Okay, let's move on. I already got it going. Do. Okay. Now the split wood, this is green, so it's going to be tougher to do, but it can be done. That's what we're hoping for. But we're going to try and split this into smaller, manageable pieces, and to start our fire. And if this is with only if you have a knife with you don't have an axe or a hatchet. But we're going to start where we're at right there. And then you can drive the knife through the piece of wood. And then this is where I said earlier about having a thicker blade. And you can twist your wood around it to split it, to break it down into more finer, manageable, workable pieces. Well, I'm going to call this one a wrap. Get things set up and cleaned up, and I'm going to need to sharpen a couple knives, but I'd like to talk a little bit about what's been going on worldwide. And we all know it's the coronavirus. Probably get a copyright strike on this, but I don't care. The problem is that people are so misinformed. They panic over stupid things. 98% of the people out there have internet access. You have a cell phone. Look it up. Look up what it's all about. Do your homework. Quit being dumbasses. There's people out there that are hoarding toilet paper. It's just me, okay, it's just me and my wife here at the house, and we go through one roll between the two of us in 3 days. You don't need to have cases and cases and cases of toilet paper. My phone's about ready to die, so let's get our heads out of our butts and move on with life. Quit hoarding, quit being dumb. Okay, well, let's get it out of here, and remember, give me a thumbs up and not the finger. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Click that bell notification. It'll pop up 3 things, and click all. That lets you know when I post a new video. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to see, and we'll see you out there. Hopefully out in the woods. Talk to you later. Bye.